This is part 6 in my series on the Larry Millete trial that is taking place in San Diego. And folks, yesterday we heard a 911 call, and then we find out Larry fucking called the news station from his jail. We got a lot of stuff, buckle up. Now remember, this one is not televised. So I wait until after court each day, and then I go back and watch the news and read everything in the blogs and everything and kind of bring you some notes. So yesterday was trial day number 3 on Wednesday, 5/20. Here's what happened. So first, we have to put Maya's father back up on the stand. If you remember the day before, he got wildly emotional. The judge had to clear the courtroom. He was yelling outbursts at Larry. It was not good. Larry's attorneys, the defense attorneys, ask for a mistrial. The judge says no, because that was the level of the outburst. So he has to come back on Wednesday. This is Pablito Tablanza. He is Maya's father. The cross-examination lasts just a couple of minutes. One of the things they wanted to confirm was that they were all together at Christmas 2020. Pablito, or he goes by Papa. Papa says that their marriage was struggling. Larry looked very sad. When he told the story the day before about Larry saying he had a gun, Papa confirms that. He says, yeah, Larry says he had a gun, and then like pat his pocket to like kind of show where he was holding it. And then the defense gets him to admit, but you never told Maya. If you thought Larry had a gun, why did you never tell Maya? And they get Papa to admit on the stand that he just kind of thought Larry was kidding, and so he didn't say anything to Maya. The next witness is Maya's older sister, Mary Chris. Mary Chris takes the stand and she testifies, and I've got a whole list of things, so just bear with me. The last time she saw Maya was January 2nd or 3rd. They were together as a family over New Year's weekend. Mary Chris learned about the trouble in the marriage because Maya never really told her sister a lot of personal things. They just didn't talk at that level. She heard it was in 2020 from Larry, who started calling Mary Chris asking for advice. Mary Chris found out that Maya had moved out of the home. Remember, I said there was a period in 2020 where she moved out and moved in with her brother. Mary Chris found out about that from a third party. Maya never told her sister that she'd moved out of the home. And then they go through a couple of, this family gets together a lot and they go on these camping trips. And so they're kind of going through this. June 2020, a trip to Lake Havasu. Maya and Larry were fighting. October 2020, Lake Elsinore trip. Larry wasn't there and Maya said, it's because we're fighting. Then the holiday party at Maya's brother's house, Mary Chris could tell Larry and Maya are fighting. It wasn't until a New Year's weekend trip, and I think this is pronounced Glamis, Glamis. It's the sand dunes. The whole family was there. That is when Maya told Mary Chris that she's getting a divorce. And Mary Chris said, what about your kids? What about your finances? But she said Maya was resolved. She was going to divorce Larry. And Maya told Mary Chris that there were 2 divorce attorneys that she was speaking with. Mary Chris testified that later Maya texted her. And there was some earlier testimony that it said maybe that Maya asked her sister for $10,000. But according to Mary Chris on the stand, she says that Maya told her she was going to sell her Rolex watch and her Louis Vuitton purse to pay the $10,000 to the attorneys. Then it gets really emotional because then we start to talk about the day that Maya went missing. So Mary Chris said they were all supposed to meet up in Big Bear for the daughter's birthday party. I've talked about in a number of videos. So that was supposed to be January 9th. So the brother had been calling Maya and Larry and the kids' phones and couldn't get a hold of anybody. And this was the 8th. So the brother goes to the house on January 8th and he didn't see her. And then Papa went to the house early in the morning on the 9th and didn't see her. And there's calls going to Maya all the time. They're going directly to voicemail. Maya's phone is turned off. This is January 9th. I think Mary Chris had to work that day. But she keeps being told, like, we can't get a hold of Maya. We can't get a hold of Maya. So Mary Chris goes to the home and she tells Larry she's looking for Maya. Now, this is the 9th. This is supposed to be the day they all go to Big Bear for the daughter's birthday. So no one's gone to Big Bear. They're all looking for Maya, and it's really unusual that Maya would just vanish on the day of her daughter's birthday party when they were all supposed to go somewhere together. Mary Chris goes to the home. I'm assuming this is like later in the afternoon or maybe even early evening, and says she's looking for Maya. And Larry says, and this is a quote, Oh, I haven't seen her. She probably went for a hike. Mary Chris waits there and stays there, waiting for Maya to come back. And finally, around 10 p.m., she says Maya hasn't come home, so that's when she decides to call 911. Now, this is the thing that Mary Chris brings up on the stand, is that Larry wasn't panicking. The entire family, him, his kids, Maya, everyone was supposed to go to Big Bear together. But Larry's like, no, I guess she went out hiking. He doesn't seem to calculate like how weird this is. And the family's like, what do you mean she went hiking this morning? And now it's 10 p.m. And you're like, well, I guess she'll come home when she comes home on the day of your daughter's birthday party. This is really, really suspicious behavior. And I'm going to be frank here. I wouldn't have waited until 10 p.m. to call the fucking cops, but that's what happens. They wait until after 10 p.m. to call the police. They play the 911 call. Of course, we don't get to hear it, but I read the excerpts of it. Mary Chris is telling the police that the couple had been going through a lot. They'd had big fights, hadn't heard from her sister since they were last all together. She told the dispatcher, quote, my brother-in-law has a tendency to be violent. When she's asked, why did you call 911? When Larry was telling you it's fine, she just went hiking, Mary Chris says, because that's not her. And some of this is quotes, because that's not her. She's not going to have her phone off all of Friday and Saturday. She wouldn't have missed her daughter's birthday. She would have been home. It's 10 p.m. It's dark. So she decided to call 911. Police arrived. They look around the house. Larry was labeled as unconcerned, even though it is now 2 a.m. And his wife allegedly went on a hike this morning. The next morning, this is now the 10th, they went door to door. They were asking neighbors, did you see anything? Did your Ring camera capture her coming and going? So they're doing door to door and trying to do things. On January 10th, Mary Chris starts to organize search parties, and they start to post flyers everywhere. And for months, they searched and searched. Every weekend, they would have an organized search party. And then some weekdays, Mary Chris said volunteers would just show up. Everyone was helping them trying to find Maya. The search went national because CBS News in 48 hours covered it. And what she says under testimony is that Larry didn't join the searches. He didn't tell them where they should go, what parks. He just was kind of non-committal to where they should go and where they should look. He didn't ask anybody else to watch the kids so that he could go out and do it. Even when his parents returned to San Diego, because they'd been out of town, when they returned to San Diego, he could have asked his parents to watch the kids and go help the searches, and he did none of that. Now, I'm going to have to go to a second video because I got a whole cross-examination on this. But Mary Chris, on cross-examine, Mary Chris says that Larry used to call her for advice. And then he asked her if perhaps Maya might be having a midlife crisis. He's like, she's in stage 3 or 4 of a midlife crisis. That's got to be what it is. Defense gets her to talk about a shopping trip in October where Maya spent what would be considered an exorbitant amount of money. She spent $1,000 to buy shoes for herself, the kids, and Mary Chris. And Mary Chris said this really surprised her because this was not like Maya to spend that much money on something like that. Mary Chris also mentions the Jeep. She was driving a brand new Jeep, and Mary Chris had thought that she bought the Jeep herself, but there was earlier conversation, I think it was in the opening statements, that Larry had bought her the Jeep. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to go to a second video, but I'll post it right after this one. Please come back.